Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Kaylin Harris, and I work in partner learning alongside the Salesforce Talent Alliance team with a focus on growing and diversifying our ecosystem. Let's begin by taking a bit of time to highlight the talent opportunity in our ecosystem. The demand for Salesforce talent will grow to 9.3 million new jobs by 2026. We know that we need to work together with our partners and customers to bring new trailblazers into the ecosystem, with a particular emphasis on building a diverse workforce that reflects society around the globe. The Talent Alliance centers around three pillars: inspiring people to pursue Salesforce careers, supporting employers to hire new and diverse talent, and then helping to connect both parties. For those employers on the call who may not have joined the Talent Alliance yet, we'll share a bit of information on how to do so. I'm super excited to introduce today's panel. We're highlighting this month Hispanic Heritage Month. So I'll introduce to you Gilbert Hernandez, Associate Partner at IBM, Ana Lu Guadamaria, Social Impact Manager at Torrent, and Tony Palencia, Talent Partner at Rework. Gilbert, I'll hand it over to you if you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about you.
Sure. Hey, thank you, Kayla. Gilbert Hernandez with IBM. I'm an associate partner that represents Salesforce Services. I'm in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, actually. Things I'm involved here is around Catholic Ministries and Redeem Ministries, which helps a lot of migrant and workers and people that immigrate from other countries to the U.S.
Awesome, thank you. And we'll hand it over to you, Ana Lu.
Thank you, Kaylin. Good morning, everyone. As Kaylin mentioned, I'm Ana Lu. I'm Social Impact Manager at Torrent Consulting. We are a Salesforce consultant partner doing a lot of Salesforce implementations and consulting. I oversee our Torrent Academy, which is our social impact initiative, where we bring on and intentionally seek out Guatemalan youth. So I actually am based off in Guatemala, and we recruit, Guatemalan straight out of high school students or a few years out of high school, and teach them English, teach them Salesforce. We truly do believe that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. So we want to bring that opportunity to those places where we know it can really make an impact and change people's lives through a Salesforce job.
Amazing. And we'll hand it over to you, Tony.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Tony, obviously, and I represent Rework. We're a Chicago-based nonprofit whose mission is to create workplaces as diverse as our neighborhoods, starting with tech sales. So we do really three things. We provide an 8-week career training and job placement program for people from untapped communities, a volunteer program that leverages allies. And then third, we have a corporate partnership program that provides companies committed to improving their diversity and inclusion with a diverse pipeline. And so that's what we do over at Rework.
Amazing. So you're all advocates at your organization. Ana Lu, can you talk a bit more about the work your organization is doing? Torrent Academy supports Salesforce analyst training, and you mentioned that you're in Guatemala.
Yes. So our program, again, we know Salesforce is growing. There's a ton of opportunity for new jobs, and in Guatemala, there's a lot of need for jobs and a lot of lack of opportunity. So kind of bringing the two together and providing, some of those Salesforce jobs by teaching Guatemalan youth Salesforce skills, English skills, business skills, so that they can join the digital workforce, jobs that wouldn't really be available to them in their villages or in those rural areas. And so we know that there is a ton of need for Salesforce talent. We know that is going to continue to be that way. And so we feel really confident in investing into that and knowing that, these jobs, obviously Torrent is growing as well. And so instead of kind of taking talent that's already out there, we really want to invest in growing our own talent as well, especially for people that would really benefit from a job in the Salesforce ecosystem.
Amazing, Anna. And I just want to go a little bit deeper for a moment. How do you attract talent or find and locate these individuals and kind of get them on board and started?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Specifically for this Torrent Academy program, we work with a few education partners in Guatemala. So we really kind of love the work that they do in supporting students to finish high school, which is actually not very common in Guatemala and a lot of Latin America. So they really support students in being able to graduate high school, and then we kind of take the students from kind of that handoff to a professional world and being able to provide jobs for them. And then, yeah, so that's like specifically for Torrent Academy. I think our kind of standard recruiting pipeline, there's also a lot of intentionality in recruiting for in different minority groups and being very intentional in where we kind of seek out talent.
Amazing work. And Tony, we'll flip over to you for just a bit. Can you talk about your success at Rework and maybe some statistics, if you have any that you'd like to share?
Yeah, totally. So I'll actually just read off what I have here. So as of recently, we've actually opened up our Bay Area operations. So like I mentioned, we're Chicago based. Originally, we ran around, I'd say 20 cohorts in Chicago and decided to bring it over to the Bay Area. So as of cohort 20 to 22, we're averaging around an 80% aggregate placement rate. And so what that means is as soon as candidates come into Rework, we provide this training, this networking, and the support for them. 80% of those candidates are placing into tech companies. And so who are these tech companies? Who are they? So Rework partners with different companies like Salesforce, Pinterest, DocuSign. And these employees actually volunteer to train our Rework candidates. And so we've placed, I would say, anywhere from 100 to 500 candidates, and the total candidate income earned is around $7,800,000 total. And people start out with an average starting salary of like $55,000. So we're taking people really from, I would say like, an hourly pay to making a actually pretty steady income that they can really splurge on. And so like 80% around aggregate placement, around 55 starting, and around $7 to $8 million in total income earned for candidates.
Amazing statistics. And Gilbert, I know you have a direct passion for all of the work being done here. You do a lot of work, not only at IBM, but in your community. Do you want to share a little bit about what you are doing to kind of support the community?
Yeah, actually, I want to just draw off what Tony is talking about. Very inspiring, Tony. Great job. One of the things I like to point out is these people that Tony's probably placing and helping have so much relevant experience that companies like ours, Salesforce, IBM, Torrent, and others can really leverage, right? Understanding our, Salesforce is a customer, right? Customer experiences, and these are our customers. And so leveraging that experience, the real life experience, is so key. And I think it's amazing. I think how other companies can really leverage that, help grow not only careers, but grow their own company as well. Some of the work I do here in Texas, so I do some volunteer work for the last 6 years with Redeem Ministries. They support people that have been brought to this country illegally, and now they're on the street, trying to develop skills, trying to get them housed, and trying to get them in a good place in life, right? So that's some of the work I've been doing the last 6 years. I travel back and forth to Houston from Dallas, so this is something I wanted to do on Wednesday nights while I was there in Houston, and it's been an amazing experience. So that's kind of the stuff I've been doing the last 6 years or so now.
It's so exciting to hear about all the work that you guys are doing, and also that you're passionate and driven, your passion and drive behind it, rather. So a little bit of statistics for you, and then I'll pose a question to the group. From March 2020 to March 2021, Hispanic representation in the workforce dropped by 2.74%. What steps can business leaders take to recruit and retain representation in the workforce? And then if we could loop it back to kind of how this is driven in your work, So I think, Anna Lou, you might have hit on this a bit. So Tony, if you kind of want to share how you guys recruit and retain untapped talent.
Totally. Yeah. I'll start by going a little personal. So obviously before Rework, I was actually at Uber, Thumbtack, and Ritual on the growth teams. And so what I realized there is how undiverse tech really was. I didn't really have coworkers or teammates who looked a lot like me. And so because of that, I realized, perspective is something that's really important. And I think with Rework, it's definitely something that we look for, right? Like there's two things. It's one, it's perspective of the world. And I think second, it's growth mindset. And so how do we go ahead about recruiting and finding and curating these people? I think on one end, it's very grassroots, right? So often I'll find myself, cold calling, LinkedIn messaging people, asking for referrals. And then secondly, we'll have our alumni refer other people that they know who can actually find benefit from it. And so those are two ways that we go about recruiting. And I think what companies can do, going forward to diversify their recruiting pipeline is look for people with a growth mindset. Obviously, a lot of things can be trained once a growth mindset is present. And then second, I think perspective, right? Because what makes I would say, a stellar employee is someone who has a different perspective than what's the norm. And so I think talent partners and people at companies have to be looking for those two things.
Yep. So a little bit of an open mind there, but you mentioned growth mindset. So I'm curious, while we're celebrating so much success, have you guys faced any challenges? And if so, of course, what did you learn from them and kind of how did you pivot? So challenges maybe in your program, any opportunities, Anna Lou, that you maybe saw this year that you may change for next year in kind of retaining talent or even in recruitment?
Yeah, so, go ahead, Gilbert. I think for Torrent Academy, so it is tied very much to our growth strategy as Torrent, right? And so how fast is Torrent growing? How many, we call them apprentices because it's a two-year training program, right? So it really is meeting them where they're at and investing in them developing those skills. So we're kind of learning, obviously, how fast can we bring people on and make sure that in 2 years, we'll have a place for them at Torrent as an analyst, right? So that's been kind of a challenge, and really the way Salesforce has been growing, and obviously with the pandemic and everything thrown into it, like how fast is Torrent going to grow and things like that. But I think beyond that, we do also hire in Guatemala, not just Torrent Academy. It's not just our program. We actually have an office down here where we do have consultants and technical architects and a lot of other Salesforce roles that work together with our US teams to deliver client work in the US. And so I think a little bit of how I see Torrent doing things differently in that sense. It's not really an offshore where many times there is a very, it's a disconnect of, basically having an office, outside of the US because it's cheaper and things like that. Or there's not the same growth opportunities. At Torrent, we've done a great job, I would say, in having it be very equal across the board in terms of growth opportunities. So anybody that, as we grow, there is the same opportunities for somebody in Guatemala to grow to be a technical architect or a consultant, as is people in the US. And managers and coaching kind of goes both ways, right? There are coaches in Guatemala for people in the US and vice versa. So I think that just being intentional in giving those opportunities and making sure that there are those growth paths for the different groups. And I would say for companies, just making sure you have the voices at the table, right? Making sure that even if it's not a big group, that there is a voice in the different tables that, where decisions are made, so that we can keep in mind, the needs of the different communities or the different groups that we have in our workforce.
Yeah, so really making sure you have bandwidth to scale. I love being intentional about that. Gilbert, did you have kind of something to share along the lines of recruiting and retention?
Well, not retention, but just setting expectations. I mean, people we're training up, are still lacking skills and experience, but they're growing, right? And just making sure our clients understand that this person is going to grow and be very valuable, right? And how to leverage their experience and helping them become and grow in their career. So at IBM, we have many, many different programs. One that comes to mind is our IBM Client Innovation Centers. And most of these they're all over the US and the UK, all over the world. But a lot of them are people that are just starting their career. They're young people, their lack of experience, but getting them onboarded to a real project to develop those experiences is key. And really just communicating that to our customers. This is an investment from both sides, right? We're training them up. You're giving them an experience and to grow, to succeed in their career. So I think what I would like to message to a lot of the people out there is really, this is our next generation. This is how we're going to have to transform education in the real time now, in the future. And I think that's what people need to be open to, and setting those expectations is really key for us to be successful in what we want to do. So.
Yep. Gilbert, I wonder if you can hone in. You shared a little bit about like a diverse perspective and the value of a diverse perspective as we were talking this morning. You had some specific examples, and I think that it would be valuable for folks to hear.
Yeah, so I went to school a little bit older as an adult. I didn't go right out of high school. I'm from a rural area in West Texas. And when I graduated from Texas Tech, it was hard to get a job, mostly because I didn't have the experience. I mean, on my resume, I had oil field worker and I have a computer science degree, but no relevant experience. So getting that first opportunity was really challenging. And there just weren't any programs like this back in 1999 that I knew of that could help me, get into that career. So my first job was writing reports, so I spent all this money and time going to school. And my first job was a very low wage paying job. And it took a long time to really get that experience. So back to no programs out there really to set expectations with employers of giving them a chance, invest in these people to grow. So, 25 years later, in my case, it took a long time, and it's a hard road. And I think it takes so long, and so we spend such a big investment. And coming from what I came from, that's what happens is we go back into what we know. And I'm sure Tony can relate to this. If the opportunities aren't there, the opportunities for us to grow into something and have a relevant future, or a paying job that can pay the bills, the cycle starts over again. And we push education so hard in this country, but if the opportunities aren't there to help support to get an actual paying job, it's why go to school? And I see also young people like, why do I go to college? I mean, even now we're questioning why go to school. And it's mostly because we need to have a program like Tony's and like Anna Lou's, where we're developing the right skill sets and having a career path for these people and for ourselves, to develop the future people that we need in the work. I mean, you see the statistics all the time. IBM's hiring 20,000, Salesforce is hiring thousands of people, and they can't find the skill sets. Well, they can't find the skill set, but they're right in front of them. And it's only if we can make these in program investments to support those, and those skill sets are there. We have to develop them. We're importing so much of these skill sets, and that's great, but we have so many people here that just need a chance and opportunity to take advantage of those things. So.
Yep. And the themes that I hear in kind of like all of our work right here on this call is perspective and exposure. So I'm really excited to have this conversation, but we do have about 5 minutes left. So anything that you guys would like to share, or if you have any advice for folks in the call that are interested in getting involved in diversity and inclusion initiatives or implementing something at their company, but not really sure where to get started.
I would say quickly, sorry. I'm sorry. I'd love to say quickly a little something about retention, right? Like, I think there's a lot of focus on the acquisition of talent. And I do think like top of funnel velocity is always important, whether you're going to grow your business, reach a business, make a business. But I think retaining that quality talent is one of the harder pieces, and one of the pieces that a lot of companies don't focus on. And I'm always very keen on the Alliance, right? The Alliance is a book by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, right? And so he speaks about two things: like tour of duty, and also these foundational journeys to an employee's career. And so what I always say is, like, there has to be a mutually beneficial agreement with like a specific mission and a realistic timeline between the company, the employer, and the specific employee. And I think I'm going to say this because I'm Gen Z, it's like lost in the sauce. It's usually lost in the sauce of all this onboarding, where like the mutually beneficial agreements, like, hey, I'm going to be here for X as long as I get Y, Z, and D done. And like, hey, you're going to be here for X as long as you get Y, Z, and D done. And after that, we'll relive a new tour of duty, and we'll see how we can help each other grow. And so I think, you know, a lot of companies have to do this in order to retain their top talent, but also to retain their talent to help them grow. So that's my last little spiel.
Amazing. I love that. I'm a millennial, and we also say lost in the sauce. So
lost in the sauce.
Anna Lou, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I was going to add, and I think it's related to Gilbert's last comment, just around onboarding. I think that's a great tool that we have to really bring people to gain the right skills. And, you know, it does obviously take investment and time. You know, at Torrent, I would say we've, over the years, developed a great onboarding program. And so we can bring on, and we actually do hire a lot of our starting analysts that have no Salesforce experience, and we kind of teach them the skills, right? So it's you know, even before we put them out on projects, right, there is a very elaborate onboarding project, just a great project where they do mock projects and things like that to get them the right skills so that they are prepared for a real job. And so I think that you know, when we go out and try to find somebody that has the skills and maybe they don't have that experience yet, which I think is, you know, to Gilbert's point, right, like not having experience and that being a barrier of entry for these jobs, we can lower that barrier of entry if we commit to onboarding and teaching those skills so that they can come into the company and contribute and ultimately, you know, be great assets and great employees.
Yep. Well, it's amazing to hear, again, all of your passion and your work behind supporting specifically the Hispanic community, but also just in diversity and inclusion initiatives, as it's very top of mind for all of us, and especially here at Salesforce. So thank you all for being here today. It was so lovely getting to know you. And we'll close out with that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one.